If you are buying high-end sneakers, there is a very good chance you are making at least one of these mistakes. And if you are making more than one, you are not shopping anymore. You are volunteering to get played. Because the luxury sneaker market is not built on logic, it is built on emotion, ego, artificial scarcity, and the quiet hope that you never stop to ask one simple question. What am I actually paying for? Is it the leather? Is it the comfort? Is it the craftsmanship? Or is it just the box, the logo, the celebrity cosign, and the fantasy that wearing a certain shoe says something important about you? That is the trap. A lot of people think buying expensive sneakers automatically means buying better sneakers. It does not. Sometimes it means better materials. Sometimes it means stronger construction. But a shocking amount of the time, it just means you paid luxury pricing for a shoe with average comfort, questionable durability, and resale value that starts collapsing the second the hype moves on. And that is why this list matters. These are the 10 biggest mistakes to avoid when buying high-end sneakers, ranked from careless to catastrophic. If you are serious about building a sneaker collection, protecting your money, and not getting manipulated by branding, you need to hear every one of them. Starting with number 10, the mistake almost everyone makes before they even touch the shoe. Number 10, buying the story before checking the sneaker. The first mistake is buying the narrative, not the sneaker, not the materials, not the shape, not the comfort. The story. Luxury sneaker brands are masters at this. They do not just sell footwear, they sell mythology. A shoe is never just a shoe. It is inspired by architecture, crafted for the modern minimalist, born from street culture, or reimagining performance through avant-garde design. That all sounds impressive until you realize none of it tells you whether the sneaker is actually worth the price. The story is there to distract you from the fundamentals. Because once emotion takes over, evaluation disappears. You stop asking whether the leather creases badly. You stop caring that the outsole is basic. You stop noticing that the comfort is mediocre. You stop comparing alternatives. You hear a polished backstory, and suddenly a $700 sneaker starts feeling justified. That is not luxury. That is marketing doing its job. A smart buyer starts with the product and works backward. What are the materials? How does it fit? How is it constructed? Will it age well? Does it offer anything unique besides branding? If the only thing making the sneaker feel special is the language around it, that is your warning sign. Because the moment a sneaker needs a paragraph of philosophy to explain why it matters, there is a real chance the shoe itself is not doing enough on its own. Number 9, confusing high price with high quality. This is where a lot of people get destroyed. They see a $900 sneaker and assume it must be better than a $250 sneaker. Better leather, better comfort, better attention to detail, better everything. Not true. Price can reflect quality, but in high-end sneakers, price very often reflects positioning. It reflects branding strategy. It reflects scarcity theater. It reflects who the brand wants wearing the shoe and who they want priced out. In other words, expensive does not always mean premium. Sometimes it just means exclusive. There are sneakers in the luxury space using decent but not extraordinary materials, basic cup soles, standard foam insoles, and construction that is nowhere near as sophisticated as the price suggests. Meanwhile, some brands at a much lower price point are delivering full-grain leather, stronger stitching, better shape retention, and superior comfort. But the average buyer never compares them because the brain short-circuits. High price becomes proof. It feels safer to assume the expensive option is better than to admit you might be paying mostly for status. That is how the markup wins. A real buyer looks beyond retail price and asks whether the shoe earns it. Does the upper feel premium? Is the lining substantial? Is the sole durable? Is the build clean? Does it actually perform like a luxury product after months of wear? If the answer is no, then the price tag is not evidence of quality. It is evidence that the brand knows exactly how much confidence people will buy when it is packaged as prestige. Number 8, ignoring how the sneaker feels on foot. This one sounds obvious, and yet people ignore it constantly. They will spend hundreds, sometimes thousands, on a sneaker they have never tried on, never walked in, and never tested for more than 30 seconds. Why? Because it looks good in photos. Because an influencer said it was a must-have. Because the silhouette is iconic. Because discomfort somehow becomes acceptable when the logo is expensive enough. That is insane. A high-end sneaker that looks incredible but feels miserable is not a flex. It is a tax on your feet. Too many buyers assume they can break them in. Sometimes that works. A lot of times it does not. Narrow toe box, rigid heel, poor arch support, stiff upper, awkward sole geometry. None of that disappears because the branding is elevated. In fact, Some luxury sneakers are notoriously less comfortable than mainstream athletic pairs that cost a fraction of the price. And the worst part is people lie to themselves about it. They feel the discomfort immediately, but because they already spent the money, they start rationalizing. They just need time. They are supposed to fit like this. It is part of the look. No, pain is not part of the look. Before you buy a high-end sneaker, you need to know how it feels standing, walking, and turning. Not how it photographs. Not how it fits for 1 second while seated. How it actually performs as footwear. Because once the excitement wears off, all that remains is the reality on your feet. And if the sneaker loses to a basic running shoe in comfort, then what exactly did the extra money buy you? Number 7. Buying for hype instead of your wardrobe. One of the fastest ways to waste money on luxury sneakers is buying the shoe everybody is talking about instead of the shoe you will actually wear. Hype creates urgency. It makes you feel like saying no is falling behind. Limited drop, celebrity sighting, viral post. Suddenly, a sneaker you never planned on buying starts feeling essential. But essential to what? Your style? Your life? Your wardrobe? Or just the conversation? This is the mistake collectors make when they confuse attention with usefulness. They buy bold, loud, trend-heavy sneakers that dominate the outfit and then realize they barely work with anything they own. So the shoe sits. Maybe it gets worn twice, maybe 3 times. After that, it becomes shelf decoration with a luxury receipt attached. A good high-end sneaker should integrate into your rotation. It should elevate multiple outfits. It should feel like an asset, not an event you have to build your day around. That does not mean every shoe needs to be minimal or safe, but it does mean you should know whether you are buying a wearable staple or an expensive mood swing. The brands love when you buy hype. Hype is fast. Hype is irrational. Hype gets people spending before they think. Style is slower. Style is personal. Style asks annoying questions like, will I still want this in 8 months? And, does this actually fit who I am? That is why hype sells better. But if the sneaker only works when the internet is excited about it, then you did not buy a timeless piece. You bought temporary permission to participate. Number 6, not researching materials and construction. This is where bad decisions start hiding behind good lighting. A sneaker can look rich online and still be built with underwhelming materials. Smooth product photos, dramatic shadows, luxury packaging. None of that tells you what the shoe is actually made of. You need to research, not just Italian leather or premium suede. Those words are too vague. Brands use elevated language all the time because most buyers will never ask for specifics. What kind of leather? Full grain? Top grain? Corrected grain? Split leather with a fancy finish. How thick is it? How will it crease? What is the lining made of? Is the sole stitched or just glued? Is the construction meant to last or simply look clean out of the box? This matters because luxury pricing creates the illusion that corners are not being cut, but they absolutely can be. Some high-end sneakers are beautifully made. Others are priced like masterpieces and built like well-marketed fashion products. If you do not know the difference, you can burn a lot of money chasing the appearance of quality rather than the real thing. And construction matters just as much as materials. A sneaker with excellent leather but weak assembly is still a bad purchase. Poor glue work, sloppy finishing, thin insoles, fragile heel counters. These are the kinds of things that turn expensive shoes into regrets. The smarter you get about materials and construction, the harder you are to manipulate. Because once you can identify what is actually premium and what is just dressed up to look premium, the spell starts breaking. And that is exactly what a lot of brands do not want. Number 5, believing rarity automatically means value. Scarcity is one of the oldest tricks in the game. Limited release, exclusive colorway, only available for a short window, never restocking. Those phrases hit buyers like adrenaline, and that is the point. Scarcity creates panic. Panic disables judgment. Once that happens, people stop evaluating the sneaker and start chasing the opportunity. They are no longer asking, is this worth it? They are asking, what if I miss it? That psychological shift is where luxury brands and resellers make their money. But rarity does not automatically create value. Sometimes it creates noise. A sneaker can be limited and still be uncomfortable, over-designed, hard to style, or completely forgettable 6 months later. Limited production does not magically improve craftsmanship. It does not upgrade the leather. It does not make a bad silhouette timeless. It just makes fewer of them. And buyers confuse that with significance all the time. Real value is a combination of design, execution, wearability, brand relevance, and long-term demand. Scarcity can amplify those things. It cannot replace them. If the only thing making the sneaker attractive is the fact that other people cannot get it, then be careful. That desire is fragile. It depends entirely on external validation. The second public attention fades, the emotional premium collapses with it, and then you are left holding a very expensive reminder that exclusivity without substance is just another sales strategy. Number 4, overlooking resale reality. Even if you are not buying primarily for resale, you should still understand resale. Why? Because resale tells you something retail never will, what the market thinks the sneaker is actually worth once the store fantasy is gone. At retail, every brand controls the environment. The packaging is immaculate. The storytelling is polished. The launch feels important. The staff treat the product like art. The price is presented like fact. Resale is different. Resale is ruthless. It strips away the atmosphere and asks one brutal question. What will someone else pay for this when emotion is removed? A lot of high-end sneaker buyers never look at that. They assume expensive retail means strong value retention. Then they discover the shoe they bought for $850 is barely moving for half that, sometimes less, the moment it leaves the boutique. That matters. Not because you need every sneaker to appreciate, but because value retention is a signal. It tells you whether demand is real or manufactured. It tells you whether the silhouette has staying power. It tells you whether the market sees the shoe as desirable or just heavily marked up. And if a sneaker collapses immediately on resale, that is often the clearest sign that the original price was inflated far beyond what the product itself could support. The smartest buyers check historical resale, not just release hype. They look at comparable models. They track whether the brand sustains demand or just launches loud. They understand that some shoes are worth paying retail for, and others become dramatically smarter purchases on the secondary market after the initial noise dies. Ignore resale, and you may end up learning the true value of your sneaker in the most expensive way possible. Number 3, letting brand prestige override personal judgment. This is where people stop shopping with their eyes and start shopping with borrowed status. Some buyers see the brand name and mentally skip the evaluation process. The logo is prestigious, the house is famous, the sneaker is expensive, so the conclusion feels automatic. It must be worthy. That is dangerous. Prestige can distort judgment more effectively than hype because it feels sophisticated. Hype is loud and obvious. Prestige is quieter. It tells you that your purchase is refined, cultured, elevated. It makes overpaying feel elegant. And because of that, people excuse flaws they would never tolerate from smaller brands. If an unknown brand released the exact same shoe with the exact same materials and the exact same comfort issues at the exact same price, most buyers would laugh and move on. But attach a prestigious fashion house to it, and suddenly all criticism becomes missing the point. No, the point is the shoe. Luxury branding should not remove scrutiny. It should invite more of it. If a brand wants premium money, it should face premium expectations. That means better design integrity, better materials, better finishing, better wear experience, and a stronger reason to exist than just inherited reputation. A famous brand is not a substitute for honest judgment, and the moment you start buying based on what the name says about you, instead of what the product delivers to you, you have already lost. Because now the brand is not just selling you a sneaker, it is renting you an identity. Number 2, buying too fast and skipping comparison. Urgency is expensive. The luxury sneaker market thrives on speed. Quick drops, limited windows, early access links, exclusive raffles, influencer seating, countdown timers. It is all designed to make hesitation feel costly. So people rush. They buy before trying. They buy before comparing. They buy before reading reviews. They buy before checking how the shoe ages, how it fits, or whether there are better options at the same price. That is one of the dumbest ways to spend serious money. The moment a purchase gets rushed, the brand has the advantage. Comparison is what protects you. Comparison forces clarity. Once you place a high-end sneaker next to competitors in the same price range, a lot of the illusion starts fading. You notice which one has better leather, which one has cleaner shape, which one offers better comfort, which one actually feels like a finished product instead of an overpriced concept. And sometimes the result is brutal. The shoe you thought was elite turns out to be the weakest option in the room. That is why comparison is so important. A disciplined buyer pauses, checks alternatives, looks at reviews from people who actually wore the shoe, studies fit notes, examines how the sole, upper, and lining compare against other brands, asks whether the extra money buys meaningful improvement or just louder branding. If you cannot justify the purchase after comparison, You were never buying quality. You were buying momentum. And momentum is one of the most expensive substances in fashion. Number 1, buying high-end sneakers to impress other people. This is the biggest mistake of all because it poisons every decision beneath it. When you buy high-end sneakers to impress other people, you are no longer shopping for quality, comfort, style, or value. You are shopping for reaction, and reaction is a terrible buying guide. It pushes you toward recognizable logos over better products. It pushes you toward flashy choices over wearable ones. It pushes you toward overpriced releases because the real goal is not satisfaction. It is social proof. You want the glance, the compliment, the envy, the feeling that people noticed. But here is the ugly truth. Most people do not care nearly as much as you think they do, and the few who do care are often judging the label, not the sneaker. That means your purchase becomes dependent on outside approval from people who are contributing absolutely nothing to the cost. That is a losing arrangement. The best high-end sneaker buyers are not the loudest. They are the most deliberate. They know what they like. They understand what they are paying for. They can explain why a shoe is good beyond the brand attached to it. And if nobody notices, fine. The shoe still works. The value is still there. The purchase still makes sense. That is freedom. Because once you stop trying to impress strangers, your standards get sharper. You become less vulnerable to hype, less vulnerable to prestige, less vulnerable to marketing theater. You start buying shoes that actually fit your life, your taste, and your expectations. And that is when expensive sneakers stop being traps and start becoming intentional purchases. In the end, the high-end sneaker world is not dangerous because the shoes are expensive. It is dangerous because the pricing, the branding, and the culture are all designed to make bad decisions feel sophisticated. That is the game. So before you buy your next pair, slow down. Check the materials. Check the comfort. Check the resale. Check the alternatives. Check your own motives. Do not let a logo do the thinking for you, because once you remove the hype, the scarcity, the prestige, and the pressure to impress, one question remains. Is this actually a great sneaker or just an expensive one? Know the difference, and you win. Ignore it, and you become exactly the kind of buyer this market is built for.